Ever wondered what the inside of a leg would look like, sprayed, splayed, and filleted like a side of beef? Well, now you know.
Nearly 2 years ago, I made a video discussing the origins of the Hong Kong 97 Game Over screen, which we now know comes from a Japanese shock tape called Death File War. While doing my research for that video, I came across several different shock tapes from all parts of the globe, with varying degrees of quality and content. But one series stuck out. Produced in the USA in the late 90s, when shows like Cops were at the height of their popularity. Banned from television. A collection of shockumentaries made to appeal to a larger audience. It took a more tasteful approach to its content, replacing the dementedly gleeful narrator with a style of narration reminiscent of police shows, and replacing the thrash metal with generic stock music. Yet through this obscure series of tapes, one man managed to rise up and become the king of exploitation media in America, at a time when it was growing easier and easier to access. The man behind the notorious Girls Gone Wild series. This is the story of how Joe Francis gained national success, and how his media empire gradually collapsed. To better understand his success, you have to understand that shock tapes never had any form of major advertising. It was still very much an underground genre of film, even after its rise in popularity in the 80s and 90s. Films like Death File and the imaginatively named Traces of Death weren't really made to turn a profit. They were more passion projects made by the depraved individuals who cobbled them together. This is where Joe Francis comes in. In 1995, after leaving the University of Southern California, he wanted to start his own line of gambling videos. But not surprisingly, he couldn't get enough capital. He then worked as a production assistant for a CBS syndicate show called Real TV, which featured amateur video clips of extraordinary events, accidents, rescues, animal encounters, basically a precursor to those caught-on-camera shows. During production, the crew would often get clips that were deemed too inappropriate by the network to be shown, whether they were too gruesome or too sexual. Francis saw an opportunity to make a quick buck off all this unused material, so using his credit cards, he licensed the footage and edited all the clips together. To promote the film, commercials were aired on late-night cable TV, a first for the exploitation genre.
They don't think you should see this. They don't think you can handle it. Banned from television. These are real videos that you'll never see on TV because the censors won't allow it.
The first banned from television tape was very successful, making over $10 million while garnering praise for its variety of clips and more serious presentation. 2 more entries would be released the same year, as well as a spin-off entitled Prison Files, which featured disturbing footage taken from prisons, even including police brutality at points. Francis claimed he stopped the series at 3 because he didn't expect people to want to rewatch graphic footage over and over and over, limiting its value. It was during the making of these films, however, that Francis would stumble upon the amateur footage that made his company a household name.
Warning, this tape contains adult content not suitable for children.
Now, you can party with the wildest girls ever caught on tape. Girls Gone Wild. These are not hired actors or paid performers. We captured real girls.
During production of the first banned from television, Francis came across a tape of college women, well, the narrator puts it better than I can.
Showing their assets.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Francis apparently watched that tape over and over again, calling it, quote, playful, joyous nudity, and later writing that this wasn't pornography, it was something much better. It was real. Okay, buddy, it's not that big of a deal. You found some videos of some drunk college kids. Do you know how many drunk college kids are in this nation right now? Like, a lot. But to him, this was like finding the lost Ark of the Covenant, and he realized it needed its own series separate from banned from television if it was to flourish. After several name suggestions, he finally settled on College Girls Gone Wild, dropping the college from the beginning of the name before release. He also attempted to market the video on late-night cable, But unsurprisingly, nobody wanted to give ad space to a man selling what was essentially a porn tape. Eventually, Howard Stern, well known for his respect towards women,
I'm wondering what it takes to get into your pants.
She's a catch.
You know what I mean? Like, are you going to be... Is it like a whole courtship, like for months, or do you ever put out, like, after the first...
No.
offered to host the commercials during his show on the E channel. I have no idea how to say that. Do I just say E? Like the letter E? E channel, because it's got an exclamation point. The E channel. I don't fucking know. Gradually, more and more stations opened up to Francis and let him advertise. And soon, Girls Gone Wild was one of the most successful exploitation series in history, grossing over $20 million in sales by 2002. With success came collaborations, and Francis got to work with the likes of Playboy magazine, Eminem, and Snoop Dogg.
It's so off the hook out here. I mean, it's so off the hizzle for shizzle, my dizzle.
He even donated 100% of the gross sales of his DVDs to the Red Cross to help victims of Hurricane Katrina. Okay, so he's a bit of a weird boy, but it seems like he's a pretty good businessman and a good person at heart. Or at least that's what his outdated website's biography would have you believe. It only goes to 2009 and makes sure to tell you about how much good he does for his community. Isn't it kind of weird that 3 out of the 4 charities this porn entrepreneur donates to are for children? There's like pediatric AIDS and kids in areas of conflict. Am I the only one that thinks that's kind of weird? But Joe Francis had an even darker side. Because once you hit the top, the only direction you can go is down. The legal issues began in 2003, when cops attempted to stop him filming in Florida. They later arrested him after the father of a girl he filmed called the county sheriff's office, saying his daughter was underage. Oh, shit! Francis was charged with 70 counts, including drug trafficking, prostitution, and racketeering. All but 6 of the charges were thrown out by 2007, and he was sentenced to community service with a fine of $1.6 million. The following year, 4 more women came forward and claimed they were minors when Francis recorded them. At the same time, he was also battling 2 counts of tax evasion in Nevada. He bizarrely chose to defend himself, but the judge found him in contempt of court after he asked one of the women if she was a prostitute. He pled guilty to the tax evasion case in 2009 and chose to plead no contest to the child abuse and prostitution charges. No contest is a way to technically not plead guilty, but still get some of the benefits of a guilty plea bargain, like reduced sentences and such. He spent less than a year in jail before being released. Then, in 2011, he was accused of kidnapping 3 women and assaulting one of them before threatening them not to call the police, which is itself illegal under California law. That trial lasted until 2013, where he was sentenced to yet another year in jail and 3 years probation. He later called the jury mentally retarded in an interview and said they should be executed.
You're a retarded jury, and you should be shot dead. You should. They had the death penalty for juries, you should be shot.
By that time, his corporation had filed for bankruptcy because he never repaid his gambling debts. If only he had had those VHS tapes to teach him the secrets of successful gambling. But in 2015, a court ruled that he hadn't agreed to the terms of his own bankruptcy and sent out a warrant for his 3rd arrest in 10 years. And that's kinda where the story stops. Francis has apparently fled to Mexico with his family, and according to this 2019 article, that's still where he is. As far as I know, the warrant for his arrest is still active if he were to return to the United States, but he can't be extradited. In just 20 years, one man went from a media mogul of debauchery to an active criminal and fugitive. But really, what did you expect? This man's lifelong dream was to make gambling videos. He made millions of dollars off stupid drunk teenagers and police brutality. Are we really surprised he's a piece of shit? You could say money or success corrupted him, but you gotta remember, Banned from Television and Girls Gone Wild were released in the same year. So before he had any money at all, Joe Francis sat down, watched this tape of drunk college women taking their shirts off, and said, Ah, yes, this is something I want to show to millions of people across the United States. I mean, at this point, he seems pretty content with staying in Mexico and raising his kids. Good. Great. Stay in Mexico. Become another Drake Bell, why don't you? And just like Drake Bell, the only legacy you'll leave behind can be summed up as follows. Hey, remember that dude who did that thing in the early 2000s? Man, he turned out to be a piece of shit.
As we wrap up the end of our journey into the world of those who no longer breathe.
If you don't agree that Girls Gone Wild is the greatest uncensored party video you've ever seen, send the tape back for a prompt refund of the full purchase price. Unleash Girls Gone Wild and watch what good girls do when they go